Hi everyone, welcome back to the Manarchy Podcast with me, Chris. I am joined as usual by Samit and Wilson. Welcome.
How are you doing?
Nice to be here.
Thank you for joining me again. And today we have a very special guest. He is the host of the magnificent Luca's Insight track. Please welcome our guest, Luca.
Hello, Luca.
Thank you.
Glad to be part of the Manarchy crew.
Glad to have you. Yeah. Glad to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Look, guys, I just want to get into some real raw discussions today about men's issues, manhood, masculinity.
Oh, here we go. Straight off the bat.
Let's go.
We've just alienated all the women already.
Just alienate 50%
25 seconds.
Gender bias.
Yeah, here we go.
So look, I want to start off by talking about a man's double life. Where does it come from? Why do we have it? Who are we at our core?
Yeah. It's like James Bond over here. Yeah.
Double life.
He's an agent.
That's exactly me. That's a great description, by the way. So Luca, who is the man you present to the world, and who are you when nobody is watching?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. Deeper. I call him the philosopher, right?
He is
off camera. You should ask him that question. But look, I'm 43 years of age. I know I don't look it. I was waiting.
You don't.
Many of us support each other.
I wish you masculine support.
Yeah,
Mid to late 30s.
I'm 30, 35.
Yeah, I can see that, bro.
So full of it.
Look, you're. I've realised the older I get, and now what I'm coaching at the moment with people is just be yourself throughout, regardless. They have to be the same person.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just exhausting. If you can't be yourself off camera, on camera, when you go to work, when you come home, what's the point? Well, who are you? You're basically wasting your life.
But you also have to have
someone else.
You have to have a sense of self, though, to begin with, right? So you have to know who you are and what your values are, and what your values and principles are, before you can even think about being your authentic self.
You got to do the work, man. You got to do I was in my 40s when I started doing a lot of therapy. 30 years therapy, really subconscious work. Yeah. And I started to remove a lot of my limiting beliefs that I had as a kid. And I started to embrace who I actually always were, or was. But I kind of laid up with the schooling and the education and the job and everything else. And I had a great episode we talked off camera about, an episode I had with Dr. Saliha Afridi. She talks about it as the second adulthood, where you rediscover who you always were. A lot of people, when they get to their 40s, this whole midlife crisis thing, that's just, they will look outwardly, they'll try and buy a new car, they'll change their wife, their girlfriend, whatever, you name it. But the real work is inside. So once you've done that inner work, it's an ongoing thing. It's not like a done, tick. No, you just keep doing it. But you feel more confident in who you are. I sit in this chair now, and I know who Luca is. And
I just want to ask you.
Don't apologize, brother.
At what time you feel you need to show yourself what you actually are? I mean, you said at the age of 40, kind of you did a lot of therapy and all those kind of things. Yeah. But prior to that, what was your life like? Single life, a double life? At what point you realize this is what I need to be?
Yeah, you put your game face on, right? Everyone does it. They go to work. It's like, right, okay. I can't say what I really want to say. I can't act how I really want to act. I can't wear what I really want to wear. You get home and everyone's always, what do? They take off their clothes. They probably have a shower. They get into something more comfortable, and they can just finally be themselves with their partner, their loved one.
Yeah.
That's exhausting. I didn't like who I was becoming because I was suppressing a lot of anger inside me. So when I would come home, I'd just be angry all the time. And I was really just angry with myself, allowing myself to have got into this kind of situation where I can no longer feel myself. So
you feel it's a fear of judgment ultimately that's fundamentally what people are suffering from.
I don't know your life, what you guys have been through. I can only speak from my lived experience, but I didn't like who I was, and I was thinking I could project the next 10 years what my life's going to look like if I keep on this path where I'm basically constantly faking it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's tiring. Now I'm tired because I haven't slept that well, but I'm so comfortable with who I am that I don't have to fake it.
Yeah.
Content.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it is. And that's, the more people are accepting of who they are, the happier they're going to be.
Yes.
If you constantly sit in denial or trying to impress other people or put masks on or do other stuff all the time outwardly, it's never going to help.
See, a couple of episodes back, you spoke about being yourself, isn't it? So was that a point of realization? Enough is enough. All this crap, all this shit, what I take. Let me be
we can
myself.
swear on this show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we're not monetized.
So,
there's no demonetization yet.
but also it depends upon your current situation, your current circumstance, I believe. If you're working in a corporate, you can't be yourself.
I absolutely agree.
Isn't
So
the
I
people-
wholly agree with both of these points in their own little
because
scale
the people,
of the balance.
your
That's
colleagues,
actually
your
awesome.
bosses would kind of find you very arrogant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, myself, if I actually be myself, I'll be kicked out of my office. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
But I can't be. But then, as you said, when you're angry all the time, where do you vent out your frustration? I vent it out in the car.
Me singing or what you?
Whatever I do, I sing,
That's
I
your
yell,
person.
or whatever it is. But then when I go home,
Yeah.
I switch off.
So something just came to me in my mind now, right? Sunday night, you know, you go to work next morning. It's Sunday night, no one's particularly happy about going to work. Typically speaking, that feeling, I used to get it at school all the time. But is it the work itself that you don't want to, you're scared of? Is that, or is it actually the fact that you can't actually be yourself? That really frustrates you, like, oh God, now my bit of me being me is over. I've now got to be that person again who has to show up in this way and speak in a certain way. Like, I've just thought about it now. Maybe it's not actually the work that's the problem. Just if I could do any task, but I could be myself doing it, I'd be so much happier.
Well, by the way, there's the old saying, you know, the next time, before you book your next vacation, try building a life that you don't have to run away from. And I guess that's kind of what you're describing, right? So a lot of people just get by doing things that earn them a living or have some job security, or, you know, it means that they can live comfortably, but it may not necessarily be 100% in love with the thing that they're doing.
No, but that's life, right? I mean, in general.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I wholly agree with you. Right? I mean, it couldn't have been said better. There is this reality that you can live in where, or at least the idealism that you can live in, which is, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to project everywhere. I, however, have seen certain other parts of it where you're in the corporate world, right? I mean, for me, there's businesses that need to be run. There's people who come in with HR problems. There's people who come in with business problems, project managers who fail, make mistakes or succeed. And every time I have to put that little weird mask on to put forth what I feel is going to be the right person who's going to communicate with you in this particular scenario that has been created in that moment. So I'm facing this. So for me, the Mondays, as they were before when in school, the next day I got to go in and am I really hating school, or am I hating how I'm perceiving that to be and what I have to disguise myself as? For me, it's every day. Now, the only place I can be free, the only place I can be myself is the place which I've created for myself, the sanctuary where I don't have to wear a mask, I don't have to be anything. I literally sit in my underwear, metaphorically and realistically, right?
Oh, hello.
And yeah,
It's that kind of podcast.
yes.
That's why you're interested
And
in
I don't
me
have
and
to
Chris.
worry about it. I can't even be
careful.
that. I can't even be that person, knowing full well that these are my principles and my values and my guiding statements. That I can't even share that with my own partner many times, because a lot of that won't be understood in the perspective and the context that I have.
Do you think that men consciously build this avatar, or is it like a survival mechanism?
What's the avatar? Sorry.
So
Break
it's,
it down
it's-
to me in English.
So like just a representative of who people meet when they first come into contact with you.
Yeah.
It's not always, you're sending out your representative, your avatar, not necessarily the authentic
Yeah,
version
I
of
mean, it's
yourself.
your first impression. I mean, how often do people actually? I mean, I did a whole episode on it on my show. The question, "How are you?" Do you really want to know?
Yeah. Nobody truly
Do
answers.
you want the answer? Do you want the answer that everyone gives, or do you actually want the No one. Very few people will go out and say, "Hi, you know what? I'm going through a massive amount of mental anguish constantly. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about this. I've got some nice bright sparks in my life, but you know what? I'm kind of terrified inside. Nice to meet you." No, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But how often do we have negative thoughts in our mind, and we try and control them, but we don't share to the world who we really are at the beginning.
Particularly in British culture, for example, we treat "Hi, how are you" as a greeting. I had a client come to me years ago, and she says, "Why don't British people ever hang around for the answer?" So she's going into the office and somebody's saying, "Hey, how are you?" and then they're gone.
I experimented once. Right. I said to the person, and it happened relatively recently. Do you really want to know the answer? They were like, whoa. They get scared. Yeah. They don't want, half the time people don't want to know.
No.
It's just courtesy. And that's, I reference this a lot on my show, but I hate stuff at 35,000 feet. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's all nonsense. There's nothing real there.
But then if you have to, you're an entrepreneur yourself.
I hate that.
But then
he said it, didn't he?
Listen.
One thing, don't call me like
No, listen. But
We built that for you.
I'm trying to build a point here. Is if you need to elicit some business from certain individuals, and right at the word go, you said, who gives a shit? They won't give you business.
That's not the answer. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, who gives a shit about keeping it everything
Bird's eye view.
Yeah, and not really real, right? So if you want business, why do people do business with other people? You think it's because they have an amazing product? There's probably 5 other products exactly the same, if not thousands of products. It's the person.
The relationship.
People invest in the person.
Yes.
They don't invest in the product. So for me, if you can be likable, and how can you be likable? Because you can be relatable, you can be vulnerable, you can be impressive, but you can be real, and that's what people want to connect to. They don't want stuff that looks all glamorous and amazing, and that's not what people connect to. People connect with the heart. Lead with that. You've got a much higher chance of actually building some sort of relationship.
I wish I could.
Impact.
I wish I could. But then, this is the fundamental thing. The place where we all work, most of them, is speak as if you're successful, dress as if you're rich. So it's all of a show off.
Fake it till you make it.
Make it. So the moment you walk into the office till you're out, you are faking it.
But it's,
even if you hate it, I understand. But options. If there are options, you can switch. For me, I love this. I don't like the suits and I hate it. I hate it. But then I can't go to the office like this and say, you know what I'm saying?
Look, there are conditions that the society has put on us that we have to cut our hair, our beard has to be a certain length, we have to smell a certain way. We go, oh yeah, fine, okay, I get all of that. No problem. But when you are talking to someone, for goodness sakes, allow yourself the opportunity to be liked by being yourself. Because you will attract the right type of people in your life.
But I have a question there, and this is legitimately very good advice. If I'm being myself as a person, I'm either going to be on one side of the spectrum where I'll be walked all over, or on the other side of the spectrum that I'll have a knee-jerk reaction of being overly aggressive as basically compensating for the fact that I feel like I'm being actually too soft in this situation. So I've actually been over the past 15 years in various situations of negotiations, whether that's internal within the organization that I run and also with clients.
Can I ask how old you are?
40.
You're 40, okay. We're all in our 40s?
Yes.
Yeah.
35.
Drop it, man.
I'll share something, and I think it's relatable to any guy or girl when they were at school. When you're at school, your number one task is to make friends.
Correct.
To be popular. You don't want to be the unpopular kid. You don't want to get bullied. You want to, you want to survive school. And we project certain images of ourselves. We want to be seen as cool. We want to be hanging out with these type of people. The older we get, the older I've realized it's all nonsense.
Absolutely.
And if people want to walk all over you from you being yourself, you can take the lessons and say, I don't want to be like that with these types of people. But I would cut those people out of my life, and I would try and attract the right type of people on my profile. And if that group becomes incredibly small, unlike the school days, I'm so much happier for it. So for me, it's about manifesting the right type of people that will be supportive, that will be tolerant, that will be appreciative of what I'm bringing to the table. If
Fair
that
enough.
produces the numbers, you know what?
No, but it was less about relationship, it's more about work, let's just say, right? I mean, so if I'm among friends, I can easily do this. I can easily curate that list into something that I'm very comfortable with. And that's going to actually empower me rather than break me down or make me want to put those veneers on. But at work, I'm meeting clients, I'm meeting representatives of clients like project managers, construction officers, you name it, right? Now, depending on exactly what mask I've put on and exactly what mood I'm walking in with, because if I'm my original self now at 40, having discovered myself like you, to quite an extent, having that resurgence, I am a guy who's always walking into battle being myself.
Yeah,
But then I have to put that on because I'm like, if I'm myself, I'm going to ruin this.
Have you noticed when you come back from holiday, you are in a much happier mood.
Oh, yeah,
you're more relaxed, and your decision making is better, and you tend to attract better things. When you are constantly in this kind of high anxiety state, you are not performing at your best, and bad things don't. They keep happening, right?
Fair enough.
So, and you attract that. So, the clarity of being at peace inside, you will give you the best chance of being yourself, which will attract the best possible outcome.
Okay.
So the way I frame everything is you can't control what you say or what you do. I can only control what I say, what I do, and I want to do this way. It will attract the right type of person for my life and how I want to live that. And that applies at work. It doesn't, we usually think we can't do that at work. We can't because of this. It's the can't. Type, okay. Do you think if you're in a position of authority and you have 10 other people that you're managing or 100 people that you're managing, if you allow them the chance to be themselves, do you think they're going to be better outputs from their being themselves?
No, you bet.
Yeah.
Most likely.
So the culture of the company has to be progressive and it has to be driven by the personality of the individual, not being all homogenized as all part of the same. Celebrate the individuality. It's what gives us our humanity.
Look, talking about a man's identity, do you think how would you describe the difference between identity and ego, and why do you think a lot of men confuse the two?
I don't have the answer, but I would tell you what I think is generally men have ego, women have ego. It's not exclusive.
Very true.
I think ego is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it has a negative stereotype associated to it.
Yes.
Everyone needs to have an identity. Very few people do have an identity.
Right.
So I think everyone has an ego in one way or another. I think they hide it, and they also hide their identity. So I think there is a lot of similarity in that aspect.
Yeah.
The difference is identity for me is what you represent from top to toe, inside and out. And your ego is about channeling that inner pride, that inner resilience, those values that you want to either try and demonstrate to the world to be your best version, or to kind of keep yourself in check. So that it's your calibrator. It decides how big do you want to unleash your identity, or how little do you want to unleash your identity. That's kind of how I would see it.
Wilson, you spoke, I think, the previous episode about opportunities you miss because of your ego.
Ego is situation based. It's all situation based, isn't it? I've got my ego, but certain times I would love to use it. Certain times I don't want to use it. Because when you walk into a meeting room, there's so much aggression around. You want to come up with your ego and your attitude, or you say, no, I need this business, bring some hot coffee or something and gulp the whole thing.
So it's like an amplifier is what you're saying.
Exactly. So
Okay.
you have to play your cards accordingly. What you need and what you don't need. And as you said, ego is good, but you use it at the right time.
You have to be humble, right? You don't want to ram it down people's throats.
Humble.
But that's part of your identity. So if your identity is a humble person, it can be put in check a bit. But everyone has an ego.
Situation
It's
based.
not a bad thing to have an ego.
No, it's actually, psychologically speaking, that's actually
Well, so then
one of the
if-
three critical factors of
because
your
I agree,
psychological
I agree.
makeup, right? I mean, ego is there. Without it, you are not human.
I agree with that. It's not a bad thing, but why does it have such a negative connotation? Where does that come from?
I'll tell you another thing, okay? Another thing that has a negative connotation, which is a slightly different subject, but I'll make my point this way. Conspiracy theorists.
Yes.
That has a very negative. When you talk about, he's a conspiracy theorist, she's a conspiracy, that's a negative thing. Why? Because you're curious. You're asking questions that you shouldn't be asking.
Yeah.
Right? And we've been told, no, you cannot ask questions. You have to conform. It's the same kind of principle with ego. You're not allowed to stand out above the system, to be amplified, to have the spotlight, ironically. Because you have to stay in check. You have to be part of a company. The team is more important, the company output. These are all important things, but that suppresses the individual.
Yeah.
So we pay the price as men, as women, where we don't allow ourselves to be ourselves.
Yeah.
We wake up one day, we're like, what's just happened the last 60 years of my life? I've been trying to impress everyone else, and I'm miserable inside. That's where it gets dangerous.
If your job and your relationship disappeared tomorrow, who would you be?
This is fantastic. In the past 2 years, I've discovered what would be, like I said, the guiding principles, who I am, identifying what I would say is the blueprint of who Sumit is, which I've never truly actually spent any amount of time thinking for the past, 38 years.
Yeah.
So in the 2 years that I've actually tried to discover myself would be someone who's empathetic, someone who's considers himself unwavering in the face of insurmountable challenges. I do not give up, I do not fail, and at the same time I'm a team person, a people pleaser to something that we might want to talk about at some point in time. But a people pleaser knowing full well when that line is crossed into being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Now all of these things, if you take it as ingredients that you put together to make the dish that I am, the problem I have, and this is what we were just talking about, is when you go and you serve it to someone else, what do they actually take in and absorb?
Yeah.
Right, from that? Do they take all of it all at once, or are they imposing their restrictions on me, knowing full well that now the waiter's being called in and said, yeah, this dish has got too much salt or too less of this. And that used to affect me a lot more than it does now.
It's all the perception.
There are remnants of that still there. There's remnants of that negativity.
It's all about perception.
Yeah, of course.
From an individual point.
At the end of the day,
You could put your best foot forward, but still I could perceive you as arrogant. You could be the nicest guy around, but I could say, no, something is wrong with
but
this
at
guy.
some point, you should stop caring what you think.
No, exactly. At some point.
And I'm getting to
It's
that.
no longer,
Exactly.
which is a great thing.
Which
So
is
that's-
actually liberating in all fairness.
It's
And
amazing.
I'm sure you talk about this a lot.
Is it entirely possible to completely not care what people think?
No, I don't know. I am not at that stage, and you cannot say something that you don't know yourself, or you haven't lived through. So, who knows? Is my answer to that. But what I would say to you, you mentioned a couple of times that people have walked all over you. So I can feel there's something there, and you admitting it, you talking about it, it's a good thing, right?
I feel growth starts from there.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, and it's like but because we think it doesn't mean we say it. But when you actually start to say it, you're hearing yourself. Okay, I've recognized now that there is a potential issue.
It's the first step, right?
Recognition.
And then it's about, right, how do I then address it and take it on forward? And it doesn't, like you said, doesn't stop.
And it's the same thing about conspiracy theorists. I know I'm kind of deviating a little bit. The negative connotation is not that they're asking questions. The negative connotations are the biases that come after. So it's about how people are perceiving it rather than how they're saying it. So you can raise the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And then after that, when someone gives you a counterpoint and you don't listen, it's your bias that bothers them. It's just like, can we have a dialogue about the questions you're asking?
Yeah.
And that then becomes like a cesspool.
I see your point.
Yeah.
I was seeing it from a different perspective, which is the control aspect of the powers that be.
Those are the people that don't want to listen.
The powers that be, where they have a narrative and they don't want anyone to change that narrative. They want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers.
Deep state stuff falling right into the mix. I get your point.
Matrix.
You've got competitors all around.
Absolutely.
So you can imagine anyone can create
there is a
anything out of
narrative
you.
that we're saying that
Exactly.
an overarching view that it's
Anyone
just like,
can
here's where
create
the marionettes.
anything out of anyone these days. It's all possible.
You know why it's called television?
Well,
Tell a vision. It's telling their vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And
That's why it's called a program.
Yeah, and we've been programmed for for our entirety of life.
It's a whole other podcast, but like it's I just like when people start to, it's that self-awakeness, what you want to call it. They start becoming a bit aware themselves, but also then realize, okay, you know what? I'm not just going to question myself. I'm going to start questioning other things.
Correct.
It's okay to question things.
Yes,
absolutely.
It's what makes us human. We are curious people by nature.
Absolutely. And we also just are fundamentally seeking the truth.
Yes.
You know, my attitude towards life is generally, I would like to think about truth and fairness. You know, those are the things that I seek out most, I believe.
Yeah.
Sumit, you spoke a little bit about people pleasing. I'll ask you a question. If the ego needs validation, is people pleasing just ego wearing a friendly mask?
I think people pleasing is not just ego, it's a variety of other psychological vestiges that you've got from the past. I'd say scars. These are all thoughts, and a Scientologist would call them engrams. I would just say these are purely just scars from the past that are unhealed or just cannot be healed anymore because you're not introspective enough to figure out where the healing needs to happen. So you please people in an effort to gloss over it, to apply that balm on top of these scars that's just like, let this not hurt, because everything needs to be nice and everyone needs to like me. So it's not about you pleasing someone, it's about the response that you're hoping you're going to get, which you never will actually get, because people are going to start misusing you.
Do you think it's a lack of identity?
It's a lack of identity.
I want to know what you think. You're asking all the questions.
I am asking the questions.
What do you think? What's your POV?
Look, I think people pleasing, when you actually delve into it, is a trauma response. You know, it's a trauma response from childhood, how people are raised. Psychologically, the idea that if you grow up in a household, for example, where you were rewarded for good behavior or potentially punished for bad, your likelihood growing into adulthood as a people pleaser or wanting to please people because of the reward system that you experience as a child, effectively where it comes from. Speaking from a personal point of view, I was raised by a single mother. And I believe, as I grew into my teenage and early adulthood years, I was very much a people pleaser. But I think it came from being raised by a single mother and thinking everything that I do is effectively to please the person that's raising me. Because I owe a debt of gratitude to that person.
It's projection.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody's story is different when it comes to why we do certain things. But I'm just talking from a personal point of view, why I think I was a people pleaser, and becoming less so over the last decade, I would say, I think naturally coincides with my decision to live in a different region, for instance.
No, I mean, the other word for people pleasing is also respect. Like where I grew up, it was more of a respect. Your uncles and your cousins come, they would say anything against you, don't question them. Why? Because they are elderly people.
I think that's more of a definition overlap. I don't think that's what the people pleasing we're talking about. We're talking about going out of your way to please people against the grain of what your true personality is.
Exactly, but then I couldn't do it at my young age. I just couldn't go.
You're still young, bro.
Yeah. 35.
35 only.
35, just growing. I'm trying to reach 40.
The numbers are going to keep changing.
Every episode, numbers are going to change. But this is what I'm saying. Look, corporate world, you have to please people.
That's something else.
People come in, walk in, boom, 3 million out to buy.
So why are podcasts successful?
Because everyone's got an opinion.
And also, it's real. It's not. There's no.
Yeah.
If no one watches it, it's fine. No one watches it. If 3 people watch it, then you connect to them. Then great. Because you can be. The definition of podcast is you should be yourself. And
I agree.
It's an opt-in audience. So the people who want to watch are choosing to want to listen to you. There's no force to it. There's no programming. There's no top-down approach. There's no agenda. We're just 4 guys having a chat. Fine. Amazing. That's what.
And again, it's based on each one's experience, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What you've gone
Do we have all the answers? Of course we don't. No. Do we have experiences that are different? Yeah. Can we learn from each other? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? Do we, are we right? Who knows?
Have we learned anything yet? Probably not.
Let my ego do the answering.
Do you think people pleasing is more about avoiding conflict? Is that really the fundamental core aspect of it?
Yeah, everyone will have a different definition of that.
Awesome.
His definition of people pleasing can be different to yours. He already gave one, so it's all your own experiences.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I like to avoid conflicts, to be very honest. Because if I walk into a conflict, then I don't back out. Come on.
You're a tough guy as well, man. You destroy that.
No, it's not. It's not in this part of the world. You can't really do anything about it.
Not that you don't want to. You just can't.
No, you can't. It's not that I don't want to. I would love to. Oh, you better.
It's like nothing that can't be solved with a fist.
Oh my goodness! There's so many times some of them walk.
You've got a list, haven't you?
Oh.
You keep adding names to the list. If only we're back home right now.
At times, just
This is the anti-people pleasing.
at times, just the face and the tone turns me off, and I'm like, Wilson, breathe. Wilson, breathe. This is business. And I'm like,
Just imagine how much we could weaponize him if we had that trouble.
You're suppressing so much anger.
no, I am, to be very honest, because for me, I know there is a size and there is height and there is weight and whatever it is. For me, one thing, I walk in, I won't step out. Either you down or I'm down. So I need to avoid that conflict.
One of us is hitting the deck and it ain't going to be me.
That's it. That's it. I'm all for it. But pleasing is a part of my profession. I can't avoid that. When I go home, it's a different level altogether. They know the true Wilson. My wife knows, my son knows. And that is where I need to be real with them.
Fair enough.
Always.
For me, I think it's all about pain, man. Something in the past that's actually caused you a lot of pain, and you're consistently looking for the anesthetic, the analgesic, whatever it is you want to call it, just to kind of put that balm to not feel pain anymore. And that's going to come from validation. It's going to come from what I understand the other person is now saying. That's so nice of you because you were so nice to me. Here's a few kind words that you keep yearning for, right? Yeah. Now that can also be conditioning that comes from, you said single mother. In my case, even though I had 2 parents, I had a father who was, I'd say, partially absent, largely because of work, right? I mean, this is an immigrant who came in and struggled to a point where it's very difficult for me to put in words what he went through to build what he did, to give the life to me and my sister. Now, that removed him from the family unit quite a lot, for a lot of time. So I emulated a lot what I learned from my mother, not unlike yourself, right? And she was a people pleaser coming with her level of conditioning, and for me that became the normal human behavior for a male growing up in that household, without having that father figure to come and balance it out. Now, that's my understanding of it. I'm not going to say that anyone else should believe this definition as a be-all, end-all Bible of psychological expression. Yeah. But there's every time I would get into conflict, just for you, it was the other round. You would not know how to back down. I would run away. I have an abandonment approach to conflict. I would get into a conflict. I'm like, no.
So he's fight, you're flight.
Yeah, I'm flight.
That's where the actual ego is applied in a conflict.
I've always been flight. So fight.
Well, by the way, people pleasing has been labeled the fourth F in the fight or flight response.
Yes.
Right? It's the fawn response, which is effectively do whatever you can to survive.
Fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Yes.
That's the new understanding of it. So I would always run away. Now I realize that I can actually confront it constructively. I can have that vestige of people pleasing balanced out, because I can't completely remove it, decades of conditioning into it completely. Balance it out with the ability to have constructive conflict.
Yeah.
It's way harder than it sounds, but at least now I'm able to say the word no. I couldn't even find a way to say no.
Well, speaking of the word,
what about you? What do you think?
What do I think? Well, we're built to survive as human beings. That's just and how we navigate that as we move through life. I think that's each to their own. Some are violent, some are
non-violent.
Some are pacifists. How would I describe myself? I mean, it's evolved as the years have gone by. My only objective has been, what can I do to make tomorrow a better day? How can I please my partner? How can I make my family proud? Those things.
So I echo that, and I think that's, for me, it's not about whether you're a people pleaser or not. Please the right people.
Yes.
Forget everyone else. Who cares?
Yeah.
Do not treat everyone the same. And we have this habit of volume. Again, going back to school days, trying to make friends. The older you get, no. I want to please these people because they deserve it.
Yes.
They deserve it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah, that's a very profound. Who benefits, to finish up here, when a man has no?
Has no. What does that mean, no?
As in, he doesn't have the capacity to refuse things or to say no to people.
Who benefits? Well, he doesn't.
Sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's sad though, isn't it? At times I don't want to do certain things. But then just because you're a people pleaser with the wrong persons, wrong individuals, there's a time you say yes. And even if you hate yourself, as I said, conditions, situations, circumstances, where it all leads to.
Yeah.
And at what point you say no, and at what point you say yes. I think that is the crux of people pleasing, really. You can't just say, I would do this. No, situations, circumstances, you never know what could arise in front of you right up there.
Some of the greatest things in society have been built on the concept of conflict. Something that you look in the past is someone said no at some point in time, disagreed, or had a completely different ideological perspective on that exact same discussion they were having, or a diplomatic row, or any conflict, and that's led to progress. So the ability, when the question asked, who benefits? No one does. Everyone loses. Everyone has a short-term benefit. They might, at the cost of the person who's unable to say no. But when you look at the larger view, everyone's a loser if you can't say no.
Yes.
Because you have completely isolated the entire world from the variety of other paths that may have come out of that conflict.
Yeah, look, you lose. You devalue yourself the more you say no.
That's the individual self, correct? Yes.
That's right. The more you say yes, you devalue yourself. Actually,
that's right.
Right. So if you're someone who's saying no to a people, you invite me on this podcast, right? And I said yes. I could have said no, but I said yes. Other people ask me to do certain things. I can say no. I say yes. In that decision, in that moment, you'd make a decision. Do I want to do it? These people or this other person, do they deserve it? Right? And you make a judgment call. Provided they're both aligned, yes, I want to do it. Yes, they're worth it. It's a very easy yes.
Fair.
If I don't want to do it, do they deserve it? Yeah. That's the people pleasing. Then if you go to actually doing it, then you're a real people pleaser because you're doing something not because you want to, because you know they probably deserve it, which means you're a very good person. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to be a good person.
Absolutely.
But if you keep doing something you don't want to do for other people, eventually you will pay the price, and your value and your self-esteem will go down.
So what made you say yes?
It's just going to ask us the same thing.
So look, I'm going to lay it out for you. It's season 1 of Luca's Inside Track. It was called The Inside Track with Luca Allen back then. I had a guest come on my show, Joelle Mardinian. Okay. She's a celebrity. She has 20 million plus followers on Instagram and everything else. She's a star on NBC One. She's done 1, 2, 3. She had a friend of hers who said, "Can you come help out my friend, Luca? Can you go on his podcast?" She said yes. She showed up. I had not filmed anything. I had not released anything. She just did it because she wanted to show support.
Nice.
So I'm a big believer in
paying it forward.
Yeah, I don't like that phrase, but it's about, just, I really appreciated what she did. I'm not Joelle Mardinian, I'm not trying to be her. But the concept of trying to help other people who are beginning or starting, it means a lot to me because it happened to me and I know how that made me feel. So if I can help other people in that respect, then that's why I say
Well, look, I'm going to get you to reach into this hat and read on one of these pieces of paper, and you can tell us whether you want to come back again afterwards.
Did you write these?
I did.
If I would have written, trust me, you wouldn't answer it.
you just read it and be like, nope.
No, I can't answer
Nope. That's when you start saying the no's.
This. Cowboy quotes. Love it, man. Is that your hat?
That is my hat.
Yeah. Does your wife, you wear that with your wife sometimes?
I mean, it's strictly forbidden. This conversation. That's another
Used in very specific scenarios, if I remember you correctly.
He who fears suffering is already suffering from what he fears. Discuss.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, you've got my first reaction to this is that you've got to, if you make a choice, be prepared to take the good and the bad with that choice. And I made a choice in my life. Again, I can only speak from my own experience. I decided to launch my own businesses and start from scratch. I was a multinational CEO. I was managing lots of people, and I decided I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something else. And I had a massive wake-up call, and I suffered, and I have been suffering for about 2 years. But I'm not scared of suffering.
Right.
I was at the beginning, but the therapy that I did made me feel a little bit more at ease, and that I'm doing the right thing. Because for the first time in my life, I feel I have a purpose.
Right.
I'm doing what I need to. I am not scared of suffering anymore, because I have been suffering for a long time, and I've allowed to accept the fact that it can happen. It can't always be great. What I don't want to put out in the world is you have to suffer to be successful. That's not what I'm saying, because that's the wrong mindset to have. You're manifesting more suffering before you can actually become successful. But I'm accepting of suffering if I have to, because I know I'm doing the right thing. That's the subtle difference.
And that when you face it again, you're going to face it with the right mindset.
And also with this idea that we shouldn't suffer. I don't get on board with, I don't know, these societal ideas that we shouldn't go through certain things. Like yes, of course we need to be able to process them, but nobody is entitled to a completely pain-free, suffer-free life. It's just not reality.
But don't again, each their own.
It's better to try and fail rather than not trying and fail. Because they'll say, look, if you leave this job, these are the repercussions. And if you're worried about it, don't venture into it.
That's the fear
aspect.
aspect.
Throughout your life, suffering, you will suffer for not trying.
I know people who haven't suffered much exterior. Interior, they may have suffered, but you will never know. But, you think, God, they were born with, what's the expression, golden spoon or something?
Yeah. Silver spoon.
Silver spoon, there you go. They had it from an early age, and they're like super good looking, athletic, super loaded, and they are successful, and you're like, asshole.
No, but then,
but that was and I'm like, good for you. But inside, I don't know what that person is feeling. They may be suffering. They may hate who they are. They may have self-doubt. Did I do this myself, or was it because of my parents?
Yes.
You never know. But I don't want to say everyone needs to suffer. But if you are suffering, provided you're doing the right thing, keep with that suffering, because it's worth it, because you're doing the right thing.
Now life is like a donut. You get everything, but there's a hole in the center. And that can't be filled with any of the materialism you're looking at. From our perspective, he has got this. Why not me? But you don't know what he's going through.
What have you suffered in your life?
Oh, how long have you got?
It's your podcast, mate. For the first time I can sit back, you're here and show.
Listen, I mean, countless broken bones, lack of identity, self-esteem.
Do you know who you are?
I like to think so. I like to think so now. If you'd have asked me the same question 2 or 3 years ago, even, I would have hesitated and had to really think about what that means and who that is.
So let me ask you, who are you?
I'm Chris. I'm
How many
42.
broken bones and which part? Could you let me know now? It's much better.
We'll be here all day. I'll tell you who I am. I am someone that cares deeply about the male experience. That's who I've at least become. Because I'm becoming more hyper aware the more time, I've been coaching men for more than 15 years, physically, at least anyway. And as I grow older, I understand the importance of how the mind and the body have to be able to connect in order for men to be happy. Although happiness is a spectrum, again, we can't expect to be happy all the time, but at least we can expect to experience some sense of fulfillment in our daily lives. And that's who I am. I am that person that wants to elicit that as much as I can from as many male peers as possible.
How would your wife describe you?
Good question. I'll invite her on one day and I'll ask her.
You should know.
Yes.
You know, but you maybe don't want to share. What's her name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she's sitting right here. Sorry.
That's fine.
The floss master.
I'm fluent in
He's
English.
taking a toilet break. And I asked John that. I said, tell me about Chris. What was she going to tell me about you?
Well, hopefully, I think she would say he's kind, thoughtful, cares more about the cats than he does about me, and does everything that he can to make us happy. Wilson?
No, you can still sit here and keep on talking.
Oh, we're not all going to answer it. I see.
Just one
takes.
each.
Okay. I was handing it over. Thinking you were going to.
It is not worth the bother of killing yourself, since you always kill yourself. Too late. Start with you.
Let me just read it again. It is not worth the bother of killing yourself, since you always kill yourself too late.
That's a surprisingly deep question.
Hey, mate, that's yours. Yeah, I've done mine.
No, you want to answer, you'll answer this as well, because there's something
Sure.
I'll go.
where your real you comes out.
There's a reason why you asked this question.
There is a reason why.
So that's,
Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's what
let's
it's
hear.
on.
That's what people want to hear.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, yeah. Look,
These guys want to hear it.
you always kill yourself too late. I think that we can look at it metaphorically or for exactly what it is. I think in terms of how a man views his life, whether he's successful or whatever he has achieved, whether he perceives himself to be successful, once he's reached a point where he feels like that is maybe behind him, or he's not reached it, or he's not as successful as he would like himself to be, in whatever area of his life that may be, they begin to lose hope. And I think every male can relate to that at some point or another, of losing hope, of not seeing the end in sight, of not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And as it says, you kill yourself too late. So it's almost not worth the bother, because you're past the point, you're past your lowest point that you might, although you can't see it, you're probably at the lowest point you're going to be. So making it worse from that point by finalizing it is not going to do you any favors. So you may as well carry on, push through, and keep going.
When did you lose hope?
I mean, depends on what part of my life you're referring to. If we're talking about me as a teenager, being semi-athletic and being scouted by certain, professional coaches and wanting to take me under their wing and so on and so forth, and being pushed into academia rather than into sports, you can say that was one time.
Have you got over it?
No, I don't think I'll ever get over that, to be honest. I don't think I'll ever get over not being encouraged to participate. First of all, my life would have been a lot easier financially, I can tell you that much, assuming I made it, of course. But I think that that is one aspect which I'm not bitter about it. I've accepted it as part of my life, and it kind of redirected me into speaking to and coaching men. It's being a personal trainer for how many years and taking men from here to here, and women as well, gives you that kind of sense of fulfillment for yourself, that you're okay, I didn't manage to live the life that I wanted, but at least I'm managing to affect other people's lives in a positive way, hopefully. And more often than not, it has been. I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, you've saved my marriage," and that's just through having conversations with people, because I happen to train a husband and wife combination. So those things make it worth just being in the service industry.
Honestly.
It's you.
That's your question.
I'll come at the end.
Well, you're good.
No.
You're good. You're like the silent assassin.
Yeah.
You're the philosopher. He's the silent assassin.
You gotta. Let's hear you out.
Come on.
Still put you on the spot.
No, man. This is you.
Put you on the spot. Come
Look.
on. You got this, man. You gotta have something
To
good to say.
be very open, I've been mocked, humiliated, abandoned.
By who?
One of our own.
Okay.
By one of.
Who's one of
My
your
own. I mean, abandoned by friends whom I helped. All of a sudden they leave and they walk out, in times when I needed them the most. So,
Sorry, to hear that.
wanted to get into something which I always wanted to do, but absolutely discouraged. You don't fit. Look at your size, look at your face, look at this. What are you? Look at the other guys. Comparisons always. So that demotivates you completely. But one thing I've always done, I have never lost hope.
Good for you.
That was innate, I said, I will fight this. And I've been all alone fighting. All alone. No backup, nothing. So for me, as I said, if I get into conflict, as I said, if there are 10 guys, I'll stand there. Show me what you have.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
So you weaponized it, right?
Yeah.
You basically
because the
converted
thing
it
is-
into a strength.
But I'm grateful to God. If I wouldn't have gone through those experiences, I wouldn't have been what I am today.
But your energy is amazing. So I'm sitting next to you, right?
Yeah, that makes
I
a
don't know if it
difference.
comes across on camera, but I can feel your energy. It's a great energy. It's a
No,
positive energy. It's a happy energy.
Happy energy.
It's inspiring. It's very
So
inspiring.
whatever you've,
So,
all that
so,
stuff.
so I always tell people, don't give up. The experiences what you've gone through will always help you to get better. This is where you say, I'm going to fight it out. As far as hope is concerned, never give up hope. That's life. Till you live, till you breathe, never give up. Whatever happens, take it. Storms come, face it. Because without you facing the storms, you will never grow up. So that's the bottom line. Hope is good. Keep hoping, keep fighting. I'm just 35. These guys are
Sure.
40.
Last one for you.
He's the spring chicken of the group.
I'll tell you my age once this is done.
By the way, you guys can't see this, but there's a couple of flamingos in this.
Yeah,
studio. It's great.
yeah.
We'll get them in the next one.
Right, I love it.
Yeah, I was just telling
I've
you.
been looking at this bad boy for a while.
All right, another cowboy quote. Most men live lives of quiet desperation. Oh,
Most men live lives of
quiet desperation.
Man, this is some heavy stuff.
Yeah, this is really heavy stuff. And it actually resonates quite well with me. I don't even need to give it that much thought. To be honest, most of my adult life, I would say formative years and beyond, up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, was entirely quiet desperation. Desperation to prove myself, desperation to establish identity and failing miserably at it, desperation to define the purpose of life, which is now well understood by me to be more of a life journey rather than an end point or a milestone. I think each and every one of us is desperate in some shape or form, whether that's going to be validation, self-description, establishment of identity, discovery, and knowing what journey you're on, purpose of life, and what your own self-definition of masculinity is, and not that which you are conditioned for, that which society thrusts upon you. Now, whether that desperation will be built in little buckets, that's going to be based on relationships, the one with your partner, the one with your father and mother, or maybe separately, the one with your siblings, the one with the ones at work, the ones that are your mentors, the ones you made a mentor and never actually became the mentor, right? So the aspirational mentorship. And then, of course, the conditioning that comes from society's dump truck of social media malaise and garbage that gets thrown at you, where you start comparing yourself to others. So yes, there's desperation all around, knowing full well of how you're going to deal with it. Going back to our previous question of when we talked about suffering. First you have to define what suffering is. So then my understanding here is to define what desperation is. Are you truly desperate, or do you see yourself as desperate more than anything else? Now, in hindsight, 2020 and all that, I see myself being desperate for the wrong things. I see myself being quietly desperate in variety of scenarios, not asking for help, where I could have just literally raised a hand out and somebody would have held it. Hearing now people saying, we knew you were going through something, but you didn't want our help. You didn't ask for it. Knowing that I think this will be resolved by myself. It's my battle and no one else is privy to it, or nobody else should know about it, or there is shame associated with declaring what that battle was to someone else.
But was it also not asking for help is once they help you and you're successful, then would they tag along their name along with yours? Look, because
no, so even the ones that are completely altruistic about it, like let's say my sister, right, the most altruistic person I know in my life, I still would feel a little bit of shame. I'd be like, I took advantage of you. I took help from you. Not knowing how to properly take help from someone is also a sign of weakness, in my opinion. And then that's the quiet desperation I was living in, is that I was going through something massively self-destructive because of whatever my prior relationship was for a 9-10 year period. And the only person who I knew could help me, I did not have the ability to ask the question, be like, this is my battle. I should not ask this person.
Can I ask you a question? When was the last time you cried?
Oh, it's been maybe about a year.
Okay.
That's the first time in maybe 20 years I cried.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So it takes a lot for you to cry, to visibly show.
Yeah, very much so. Because there was a facade that was built, that brick wall. It's just like, I can punch this brick wall, but I can't just hold my head against it and just let it all out.
When you see a grown man crying, how do you feel?
I feel
relief, I think.
That person needs empathy. I just go and give that person a hug. The person needs help.
What do you say, sorry, Chris, when I
relief.
Say you feel relief. Why do you feel relief?
Well, I mean, I just talk from a personal perspective of knowing how many times I've held back the tears. But what am I holding the tears back for? You know?
So when was the last time you cried?
It's been a few years. For various reasons. But the silliest thing can make me cry. So when I was growing up, one of my uncles, he used to really, really love Bollywood movies. And I used to sit there for hours, just watching these movies, to the point where I'd be falling asleep and he'd be like, go and wash your face and come back again. So it was almost like, to be honest with you, it's probably a trauma response, but just sitting there watching these movies. And so oftentimes, my family are quite surprised by how much I know about the Bollywood industry, but that's because of this experience from when I was a child.
The Bollywood gulag.
Yeah. And so now, if I watch a Bollywood movie, depending on the scene, the setup and the music and the tone, I might get a bit choked up, and I'm just nostalgia. Like, I have absolutely no idea why this thing in particular is about to make me cry. But I better swallow it.
It's nostalgia. It takes you back.
Yes, exactly, yeah. To answer the question about relief is just that, because I know that for that to be happening to this man, he absolutely he needs it.
Isn't that sad? It's the final bit.
Yes.
For a man to cry, that it must be really bad.
Yes.
Like, visibly.
It depends upon in front of whom you cry.
Well, just crying in general, because you don't. I mean, I was conditioned, boys don't cry, men don't cry. We're all kind of similar age. I know you're obviously much younger, but we were all told it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Right?
But who are we told this by, Luca? Well, I've always been fascinated by this.
My dad told me this.
Idea.
Straight up. It was like, men don't cry. My mum would tell me, like, she never saw my dad cry. So I grew up seeing it as a son.
Because the thing is, I was raised by a single mother. I know she never told me not to cry.
Yeah.
But I still grew up.
But you're forgetting you're conditioned in a very specific way.
Yes.
You grew up in the 80s and the 90s, right?
Yeah.
You're watching Hollywood movies of like big burly masculine men
Stoic
being
men.
strong and I can break anything with my fist. I shouldn't have to sit here and talk about my feelings. So there's a lot of conditioning that's happening from everything around you pre-social media too.
So this whole masculine energy, feminine energy thing, right? So crying is feminine energy, apparently.
Apparently, emotions have.
Apparently, emotions are feminine.
Yeah.
Men shouldn't have them. That's the old school
Yeah,
definition.
old school
But we
thinking.
all realize we're now in a period where, if you're an early millennial or whatever the case is, you know, you're starting to realize actually that's just not true,
true at all.
anymore, and it doesn't ring true with who I am as an individual. It doesn't mean I'm a different person. It just means I'm more of an awake, alive, self-aware kind of person. What about you, mate? When's the last time you cried?
Alone, a couple of days back.
What happened?
A lot of things. I'm venturing into something new, which I wanted to do for a very. No, look.
Put it out there.
I used to do a bit of modeling. I was a dancer. I was an actor,
Nice.
and then I gave up because
That's really talented, by the way.
because a lot of things, financial breakdown, a lot of issues. So I had to sacrifice a lot of things. So for the last, say 20, 22 years, I gave up everything till I recently realized why. I had some great opportunities in Mumbai, which I was telling him because of my ego, I messed it up, big time. So I could have been there, but as I said, all these things takes you to a different level, teaches you a lot of things in life. So now I'm at that age, and by the way, I'm 56, just to let you know.
Oh man, I was hoping
I'm
we'd
shocked.
release that in the next episode.
So the whole thing is, I am now venturing into acting. I want to do.
Good.
I want to get into modeling again.
Say it.
So I'm applying.
Slam that.
Breathe it into
I'm
existence.
applying. I'm doing it. People will say you're 56. I give a damn.
Who gives a shit?
I give a damn because I know I will get it now. So I'm going for auditions now, starting to getting
Awesome.
some positive reviews.
Can we do some role play? Is there like a script that we can do now? Four guys.
Look, my son is writing a script, so I'll tell you.
Yeah, you're so-
We'll have to invite you back.
this is like a familial thing, yeah. This talent actually runs in the family.
Yeah.
His son is,
Yeah, amazing.
if not more than him,
I've heard a lot about
equally
your son.
talented.
He's done the Bollywood movies.
He's
so if you want-
wonderful.
Between you guys, you've got
Yeah, we have. So let's see what happens. I've started venturing into it. Yes, at times frustration hits you, thinking you could have done better.
So you're crying because of what? Because are you remembering how?
How
could have
opportunities
been,
are
right?
messed up,
What-
and now it's getting difficult because look, if I even go to Bombay, even now, I might get more opportunities. But here it's a competitive world. You got different nationalities, whatever.
Yes, but there's only one Wilson.
Yeah, there is one person, and I'll get it, and I'll show it to you. Prove it.
Guys,
I'm more proud of you, man. Honestly,
man.
you deserve it.
that's awesome. Thank you very much for joining me for this episode. I really appreciate your feedbacks and your inputs. Look, we just want to add value. We want you to see what we do, listen to our discussions, take some actionable things away, and hopefully it will help you in your personal, professional relationships.
And also, we are not scripted. We kind of don't script anything. It's individual-based experience, what we put up there. So, if you resonate with what we say, please comment, let us know which topics you want to talk about in the near future, and we'll very well do that as well.
To add to that, just be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
The only thing a man doesn't want to do is confront himself. Often, that's what I've seen about myself. I don't say every man wants to do this, but confronting yourself, at least in my scenario, was the most difficult thing I've ever done to truly discover what makes me tick. So ask yourself the questions. Sit by yourself and ask it, or find a confidant and ask yourself the questions. And before you know it, you'll be on a journey of discovery that you just will continue to love yourself for the rest of your life.
And also, if you're confused, send us questions and we'll be happy to answer.
That's it.
Cool.